Now, joining me on Continental Prime tonight to discuss this is a senior lecturer at the Institute of Humanities, Pan-Atlantic University in Lagos, Nigeria, Dr. Ruth Oji. Good evening to you, Dr. Oji, and thanks for joining us on Continental Prime.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Now, Dr. Oji, this year's theme is Transforming Literacy Learning Spaces. How well are African countries prepared to live up to this expectation? And why is it important?
Well, this is crucial because on a global scale, Africa seems to be performing way below what the standard is. Well, there's been some measure of success, I would say. Since the early 2000s, African countries have made efforts to improve access to education with stunning results. So, for example, the proportion of primary school age children who are not in school has halved from 35% in 2000 to 17% in 2019. And that's how we've had a drop really from 43% to 33% in the past 2 decades for the proportion of lower secondary school aged children. Of course, there's some progress, but despite the progress, there is still so many children, there are still so many of them on the margins of education. And we don't want to keep underperforming. We don't want to keep having that situation where Africa on the whole is performing at about 70% when it comes to literacy, while other countries are about 90%. So that's why this is important.
Now, Dr. Oji, you reeled out some quite damning statistics. Earlier this week, there were reports that Nigeria has 18.5 million out-of-school children. There are also 771 million illiterate people around the world. How can this damning statistics be addressed effectively? What can we do about reducing this number of out-of-school children?
Well, there's quite a lot of things that can be done, and one of the key things would be for the government to be proactively involved in some of the policies and decision makings that would see that we have a turnaround in the things happening. So, for example, there should be more inclusion in schools with special attention to groups that drop out. So who are these people who are always dropping out, and why are they dropping out? So can we find that out and create policies that would expand compulsory secondary education, as well as making the curricula more relevant to the job markets? Then government can also implement measures to motivate more adolescents to stay in school, such as social protection programs that include cash transfers or child allowances. Sometimes we think that this is impossible in Africa, but then let's go back and see what other countries are doing and what's working for them, and we see that it can work for us. Then the thing of teacher training. If we're talking about the literacy spaces changing, we're including a lot of technology, we have to do that. But how well are the teachers trained to take up this responsibility? So we see also that in Africa, leaders have to do a lot of strategic partnerships with ICT companies, with telecommunications companies, and see that the cost of data, cost of what have you, is reduced drastically, so that even for vulnerable and displaced people, they're able to really have access to all of these things to improve the level of literacy in Nigeria and in Africa.
Now, Dr. Oji, moving literacy education outside the traditional classroom has been on the front burner. How best can the literacy rate in Africa be improved, and by taking it to the communities?
Oh, well, it seems to be a major problem for African societies. They feel that it has to be the traditional way, but it doesn't have to be. If digital connectivity for learning and skills development is prioritized, this will definitely help to see that Africa begins to make a lot of progress in this area. And that's why I talked about strategic partnerships. This can really help to revolutionize literacy spaces in Nigeria and in the rest of the African continent. So, for example, e-learning platforms can be incorporated in almost all of the schools. A great degree, a great percentage of the schools, that is. Aside that, There are other activities, vocational programs that can really help a lot of our young ones. Incorporating technology in all of these learning phases would give a big turnaround to the learning spaces in Africa, I think.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ruth Oji. It was a pleasure having you join us on NC Continental Prime. We do appreciate your insights and contribution. Dr. Ruth
Thank you for
Oji.
having me.